What's good, y'all? Welcome to my first interview. Yeah, I'm interviewing voice actors now, or at least attempted to. I don't know. I don't know if this will become a permanent thing on the channel or this is gonna be some weird one-off thing. But hey man, like this is something you guys are into. I would gladly do this some more. So yeah, I got the chance to interview Bradley. Gareth, who you guys know is the third one for all user in Hero Walk, as well as Junpei in Blue Lock, as well as Garel in Gundam Witch. Now, funny story with this one, this interview. Man. See, when the interview was actually happening, I was recording the interview by itself via Zoom, obviously, because so I can post it. But I also recorded via OBS as well, just like a backup in case I need it. But on the OBS recording, I had pinned Bradley's video onto my thing because I want that to take up the big screen, so the whole thing, and then in case anything happens or whatnot, I could just switch to that. I can use that footage. Well, I did not account for that when you pin it. When you pin a video while the thing's recording, it only records that. So after like the opening minute or whatever, you never see my webcam again because I had pinned the thing. So yeah, lesson learned: don't pin the videos in Zoom if you want to actually have it show both screens or flip flop between two screens rather than just showing one. I did not know that. I figured it would just do that for like me to look. I didn't think it would actually do that for the recording. But yeah, so instead I ended up having to use the Zoom recording of him and then use my OBS recording of my webcam. So it's ultra blurry and everything, man. I probably could have gotten away with just having his video on there, but I felt it looked more interesting to kind of do the flip to go back and forth between his webcam and mine, so I figured it looked more visually interesting to look at. So yeah, that's what I did. So apologies for that, guys. If I ever do another interview, yeah, that'll be fixed. But yeah, man, this is a great time, man. It was great to interview him, man. And shout out to Chris Micaiah. I forget how you pronounce his last name. Who you guys know does, if you guys do know, especially if you're on the anime dub separate, you guys know he's done like over 300 interviews, interviewing various different anime voice actors like Jeremy Lee, Wendy Lee, Brina Palencia. He's got Yuri on there, Ben Diskin. He's interviewed a shit ton of people and even some musicians. So if you're into music, especially like stuff from like the 80s or 90s, hey, he's your guy. He's got you covered there too, man. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of his interviews lately, and that kind of inspired me, gave me the idea. And I've been talking with him via Instagram DMs for a while now too, since I started actually watching his interview. So yeah, and so shout out to him, man. He's kind of the reason why I started to do this. We're like, you know what? Let me see if I can maybe meet up with some of my favorite voice actors and interview them and ask them about the shows that I'm into that probably some of they're most well known for, or at least get deeper in the weeds of what's happening during the recording process because you guys know I'm into that shit. But yeah, man, enough jibber jabber for me. Enjoy the video. Thanks for willing to do this, man.
Yeah, of course, happy to.
Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, would your first ever a voiceover project would have been a fan animation of Pokemon Adventure?
That was the first one I ever got cast in. It never came out though.
So, what would have been the first one you actually did release then?
The first thing that I was ever in professionally, I think because the chronology gets a little hazy because it was at the end of high school. I forget if it was Dynasty Heroes, which was this strange. I don't know if it was like a ROM hack or something of a game, or like something like that, or like an RPG Maker game. It was neat. It was like based on like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Either that or it was My Teacher, which was a sort of prototype visual novel by Michaela Laws, who would go on to do like Seduce Me and all the other stuff that she's done.
What was the process like for you, getting involved in Death by voicing Hal Jordan for the Ben 10 one?
Oh, that was fun. I mean, I had done a ton of auditions for Death Battle up to that point. So the way that it worked is, I believe a friend had referred me. And then, you go through the audition process, and for a project like Death Battle that cycles in so many characters, so many times, over and over and over, you have to just sort of luck in to getting it. They have to, it has to fit almost exactly, because oftentimes they're looking for voice matches. And I kind of got in the ballpark of, I think Roger Craig Smith was one of the voices that was a reference for Hal Jordan. Anyway, like they liked it enough, and then going in, I remember on the day of recording, my laptop broke, which was the computer I was going to record on. So I'm just messaging the director, profusely apologizing, asking my now fiance, "Hey, can I borrow your laptop to record this?" But I mean, The crazy thing too about those videos is if you watch them, it's like, the videos will be like 25 minutes long. Maybe 3 minutes is the fight. So
Yeah.
it's like half an hour, 40 minutes of recording for real. So it's quick, and I mean it's really fun and it's really rewarding. The fact that everyone to say that the episode that I'm in is controversial is an understatement. So I find that very fun too. That's very funny to me. Uh,
And did they let you see like animatics of early versions of the animation, or was it just a script you were looking at?
it was just, if memory serves, it was just a script. I had no idea what it was going to look like.
Yeah, because I actually watched it right before when I was doing the research for this. The ending shocked me. I was like, God damn! Just chops Ben 10's arm off and then just stomps. I was like, damn.
Oh yeah. It's nuts, man. Like
Yeah.
it's so fun, and I know Nicholas, the guy that plays Ben 10, and always jokes around with me on Twitter about that anytime it comes up. It's always so fun.
Yeah. So would your first actual legitimate anime role would have been doing incidentals in Kageki Shoujo?
Yes, that is correct.
So how did that whole thing? How did you finally get inside Crunchyroll? Or yeah, yeah. This would have been after the merger, right? Or was this still when Funimation was still around?
So it was after the merger, and I have to explain the studio system down here to get into that. Crunchyroll is not where all anime is recorded, even if it's showing on Crunchyroll. Some of it's recorded out at excuse me. Some of it's recorded out in LA at Bang Zoom, which is considered like a separate subcontracted studio that doesn't only work for Crunchyroll. They often do things for Viz, for Hulu, for Disney, all that sort of thing. Netflix, I think, also goes through them sometimes. Anyway, and then in Dallas itself, there is Crunchyroll, which was the old Funimation building, and then you had these satellite studios, which the primary ones that I can think of are Okratron 5000, Sound Cadence, Kocha Sound, and I believe it's Studio Nano. That's right. And at those satellite studios, sometimes you get auxiliary recording done for shows that Crunchyroll buys. That they're like, well, we'll have this other satellite studio sort of handle the dub for us. So, Sound Cadence also tends to do a lot of work with Discotech. So for Discotech, I believe it was Discotech they were doing this through. They were dubbing a Chinese movie called Dinosaur World. That was like a live action sort of Hunger Games thing with dinosaurs. And I was playing a character in that, just a random guy that like dies. I remember my only thought was this guy looks like Chris Pratt, and then he tries to blow a blow dart at the main character. The main character chases him and then snaps his neck. And then I finished my session early, so the director was like, "Hey, we have this anime that we're dubbing. Can you pop in for a quick voice?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." So that's how I got into Kageki Shoujo. I had one line. It was in a group queue of congratulations. So I'm buried in the congratulations you hear in the first episode. It also may have been our congrats to you because we had to do both takes for lip flaps, which often happens.
Yeah. And do you remember what your first like a legitimate name character role would have been in anime?
Named character. So chronologically, well, it's funny. The first character I had that was like important was Evil Logia's father from Everything for Demon King Evil Logia, and he's like the villain of the first. Yeah, I believe that show only came out in like 5 or 6 minute segments, and then like if you watch like 4 of them, it equaled out to about an episode. So for the first episode, I'm the villain, so I'm there like the whole time, basically. But he doesn't have a name. So that was the first time, though, I had a big chunk of lines in an anime. Um, the first time I played a named character would have been Tatsuto Tatsunuma in Tribe 9, which was very fun. He was very stoic and like, oh, cool. And, if you watch the show, our characters, because they're these the show's crazy. It's like they're these gang baseball teams that fight in extreme baseball where like you set the ball on fire and you ride around on motorcycles. We're kind of playing at being villains, like we're pretending to be to test the main character. So he has to pretend to be really mean at first, and then afterwards he's just this sort of stoic, going between like stoic cool guy and like mother hen trying to protect his teammates, which was a very fun role.
Nice. And I know you've also gotten to appear in Ultraman and a handful of other live action films. What are some unique challenges with dubbing a live action project as opposed to anime?
Right. I mean, So live action, I mean, the lip flaps are so like it's a real mouth, right? So you have to be very, very careful. If the studio cares that much about that, because there's to some degree only so much you can do. Um, Rhythm is also very different, because naturally when you're dubbing from a different language, people's body language is very specific, and then the way that they act is very specific, and the way that their mouth moves is very specific. So the timing can be very tricky. Sometimes in other languages, I believe Chinese is a tonal language. There'll be these long pauses in the middle of sentences where you have to then make it sound natural. So you have to find a way to provide emphasis like that. Like you have to do a lot of pauses just so that the lip laps can actually match. So that is one big challenge. And then also, depending on where you are, I've had the note over and over, less and less and less acting, less. I need you to do less emotion right now because if you're too big, it's not going to match what's on the screen and the extremely reserved thing that they have going on. So that tends to be a big difference between live action and like animation.
Right. And what were your initial impressions when you had an audition for Junpei and Blue Lock? And did you ever play soccer or had any interest in the sport before that?
I mean, I played soccer for like 10 years, so I mean, yeah.
Hey!
I played soccer in AYSO, like I'm sure many children did. All throughout like elementary school into I believe like when I think the cutoff for AYSO is like age 16, so I had to drop out like senior year, not senior year, junior year. At which point I became a ref. So I do enjoy soccer. I really enjoy I enjoy playing it. I was never very good at it. I remember I remember coming home from a soccer match or going to a soccer practice or something, and my grandfather looked at me and went, "Just so you know, you will never be a professional soccer player. Just so we're clear on that." And I was like, "Oh."
Damn!
He was like, "It's gonna go to someone faster, someone stronger. It's not gonna work out for you." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. I'm doing it for fun. Whatever." Oh, I always liked it a lot better than baseball. I can tell you that.
And what did you think about, what were your initial impressions of Junpei and his glam?
Jubei Audio is so he's so crazy. I mean I was in the booth working with Rigg, the director, Jonathan Rigg. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic director. And just because whenever you start out with a character that has a good chunk of lines, you kind of work the voice for the first couple lines. You're still figuring out how it's going to sound, what the texture is going to sound like, how the acting's going to come out. And I remember he would be like, "We need more flamboyant, even more flamboyant." Like kept pushing, like, you're delivering this like you're almost like you're a normal guy. I need you to go further beyond that. And it's like, I think my first take was something like, defeating these clowns would be a joke. And then, like, by the time we were done, it was something like, defeating these clowns would be a joke. Something like that. I'm 99% sure that was not the line, but that is exactly the way that, like, the read transformed to just be all flamboyant all the time. It's always a show. He's always putting on, like, a little performance, and I love that for him.
Nice. And do you have at all have a preference for doing more dramatic roles as opposed to comedic, or do you enjoy both of them equally?
I enjoy both of them equally. So I mean, I appreciate. I'm just gonna give a couple random examples if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
There is there's an audio drama that's called Sicko Shock 2. And if you can't tell by the title, uh, it's a little comedic. And in it, I play like a hard-boiled detective in this like cyberpunk setting, and that can go between like really serious and really silly. But I remember that like one of the most delightful parts was there was a line, and I don't really want to spoil it, but I would tell people to go check it out. There was a line where I was struggling to get through because I kept laughing so hard at the line, and because like the director, in that case, the director was like feeding me the other lines that the other character was saying back to me. I had to stop. I had to stop like recording like 6 times in a row. We got stuck on that because I was laughing so hard, and I love that experience. And conversely, in the inverse of that, I guess, there are characters where I was trying to think of a character that I was like, if I talk about something dramatic, I'm spoiling the entire thing because that tends to be that way. I'm gonna spoil Gunbuster because it's like 30 years old. Gunbuster, in the next to last episode, where Coach, it's revealed that he's dying, and he's got this terrible disease, and he's angrily screaming at Noriko, the main character, that she can't tell her partner, who's in love with him, that he's dying because he feels it will compromise her ability to fight the aliens in that. And he gives this long monologue about how the only thing he's been living for meaningfully is, getting revenge for these aliens and protecting Noriko because her dad saved him, and now uh, he's like sorry that he was never really that good at taking care of her, and he's sorry that he was never that great as a leader, and it's just but he's like so forceful, like, you are going to do it, I believe you are going to do it, I need you to do this because this is all I've been alive for. And I like, that was the first big really meaty substantial role I ever played in anime, and I was like, in through a lot of the show, I was really nervous because I was like the whole time, like, they're gonna fire me. I know they're gonna fire me. I'm not doing a good enough job. Whenever I reached that part, I was like, I'm there. I'm in the scene. There, even in the other parts where I was feeling it, nothing connected as hard as that scene. And I felt, sort of, you feel it all through here when you're like really in it in a way that I can't fully describe. And I feel like for drama, that's beautiful. So I think for both of them, like the intense, like sort of rewarding experience of going through something that's seriously emotionally arduous, drama's great. The ability to go through material that you're literally cracking up just trying to read through, is also spectacular. So I love comedy and drama. Both of them are great.
And what were your initial impressions of Hikage Shinomori? And do you mind telling the story how you got the role and your history with Hero? Because I thought it was pretty interesting when I was looking through some of your past interviews.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I read the My Hero manga. Basically, I think I was like a junior in college. And I was living up in Pennsylvania at the time, and I had aspirations then because I started doing the voiceover thing when I was 16. I had aspirations to be an anime, and I knew My Hero was coming out, and I was like, well, um, I'm not going to be there in time for that because I was like, the plan was always sort of to move down here when I hit about 25 because I figured by that point I'd have hopefully paid off most of my college, which I did, and I would have had enough money that I can move down here, and it wouldn't be a disaster like I heard some people moving down here goes, because moving to another city where you don't have, if you're an actor, you don't have any money, you don't have any credentials, you don't have a job, that's not going to go well. So I wanted to wait till then, so I would have these years of like, watching My Hero and being all excited about the anime, but being like, I've read the manga, I'm going to be that guy, I'm going to try to be that guy, and then we get to that part, that guy's cast. I'm like, damn it. Okay, next one, next guy. I'm like, I'll be that guy. And then like, it didn't happen. Got cast before I moved there. I was like, all right, I don't know if this is gonna happen. So I just keep moving the goalposts for myself. And I got to Hikage in the manga, and I mean, like, at that point, I guess it sort of stopped crossing my mind that I could even be cast. I think at that point I was like, I don't know, maybe I could be the villain in like the fourth movie or something. And then we get to the season where we're dubbing it. And Colleen, who directed it at the time, it's now Mike McFarland who's directing. She was cycling in actors, I think, to partially try them out. And then I remember I had a 5-minute opportunity, and I was one of the comms room, the communications room people that's like saying like, they're raiding the hospital like that. I'm like one of those three people on the comms. And I remember I was like, well, this is cool. I got to be in My Hero at least for a minute. And I think I was also a couple Nomu that just get killed by Mirko like instantly. And then next week that guy showed up again. And then next week that guy showed up again. And then like I'm there for most of like the first half of season 6, I think. And then the audition goes out for the characters that were the previous holders of One for All. And I audition, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I'm already Mr. Comms Room. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I get called in, and it's magical. And whenever I get in there, she's like, I think that operator guy got you this job. So I was just so thrilled and grateful and pleased by that.
And this would also mark your first show on Toonami as well, so I'm sure that was pretty cool as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, Yeah, that did not escape me either. That was also incredible because I really did grow up with it and I loved it. And Hikage is such a I love that everyone treats him like a weirdo when I feel like he operates under the most sound logic of, I mean, I can't beat the guy and he's gonna try to kill me, so I may as well hide.
I mean, it's
That
smart.
kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And what did you think of his quirk, Spider Sense? I mean, Danger Sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. You can't lie about what the inspiration is. I mean, it's useful. I mean, whenever you see him dodging Black Whip like over and over again, whenever he's like talking to Banjo, I mean, like it's good. It's useful. That's an objectively useful skill to have.
Oh, it seems like it's nowhere near as good as Spider Sense because he can't he can't detect Toga's trying to stab at him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was really funny. Where it's like, no, she doesn't mean to hurt you. She's just mentally ill, and I can't account for that. And I'm like, that's an insane limitation. But you know what? That's
Yeah, which I'm sure
fair
Spider
enough.
Sense doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Spider Sense. Who knows all the things Peter Parker can do.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you play Ultra Rumble at all, but I was curious if you had any predictions of what you think his class would be or what you would like to see in his moveset if you ever got added to the game.
Is that the fighting game or is that like the fight each other to get to the goal, say the
It's
civilian?
the Battle Royale game that just came out like
Okay, yeah,
earlier
yeah,
last
yeah.
year.
Battle Royale game. I played maybe 20 minutes of it, so I can't speak to that. I mean, it, these I I guess the way I'd put it is these characters, the previous holders of One for All, have been dead for many, many years. I think that I don't think that they'd add them, and I think that like you could do things with you could probably do things with him. A lot of his skills would probably just be like genuine like martial arts. Uh, I guess in terms of like a moveset, in Super Smash Brothers Brawl, like Charizard will just bring out that rock and then smash it. Maybe you could do that. Because he punches through that boulder in his like monologue, he could maybe bring out a boulder and punch it. That would be a move that he does. That could be a special. Like everything else would have to be like a dodge or a parry or a counter or something.
Right. And even I know you haven't gotten much screen time with Hikai, but I was curious, what were some of the different ways how Colleen would direct you as opposed as to Mike McFarlane as his character?
So I mean, these are also very different points. Uh, Kikage, it was a character that I was familiar with by the time I was with Mike. With Colleen, she'd be like, give it another try because I'm nervous. Of course I'm nervous. I'm a named character in My Hero Academia, and she'd be like, she was very gentle and very much like, we're gonna get this right. It's okay. Where I'm like panicking. And with Mike, I think the only thing that like we're just going through it and I'm doing it, and I think I got stuck on a word because I was not hydrated at the time, and that was really the main thing that's worth noting. Is what is it? I think it's exists. And if you are talking normally, if you say something exists, normally you would just sort of say it exists, like you would just remove the T sound. And I was like, I did like 5 takes. I was like, I need to go get water because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to do this and have it sound like clean diction. So that's really the most noteworthy thing. I think also Mike laughed a little more. That would be the primary difference.
And I'm not sure if you actually saw it, but actually Horikoshi Sensei actually in a recent interview he did with Viz mentioned that he actually has the backstories of all the previous Wheels of One for All already mapped down in his head, but he has like no plans to releasing any of this because he wants to leave it up to the audience's interpretations. And he cited T2, which is my favorite film, so I'm like based. But
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah, I mean that's good.
yeah, but I feel like eventually Bones is probably gonna get that information out of him to make OVAs out of it.
Maybe. I
Yeah,
don't know. Because you get so many anime now where they're like not spoiling the end of the My Hero Academia manga. I don't think there's going to be like a Boruto or like a Dragon Ball Super for it. Like they might do vigilantes, but I don't foresee too much reason to go back and sort of mine the material much more. Like, and I think to some degree, I'm a fan of a lot of things that sort of go on forever. Like I love Pokemon. And Digimon, I like the iterations that they come out with that aren't like a continuous stream of events happening. But I do think it's probably nice when things end and they're just a work that you can go back and like watch and then that's it. Because I think at a certain point you sort of hit your peak and then you're just sort of like edging along to like season whatever, season 50. You don't want to be like The Simpsons where you just sort of go to a point where everyone's like, man, when are they gonna stop making this show?
Yeah. And one of the most surprising roles that you have done that really surprised when you posted your Twitter banner that one time was that you got to voice Cyclops in Marvel movies. So how was that
Yes.
process like? Was that pretty standard audition or was it a bit more involved since it was Marvel? And was that recorded remotely or was that done in Dallas?
Okay, so that's a very good question. There, Cyclops was through a public casting call, but I did not know it was Cyclops. So what happened was Marvel Move was developed by a specific developer. The name is escaping me right now, and they may have changed names because I know that they had someone buy them out. Um, but they had released a game called Zombie Run, or Run Zombie Run, I think is the full title. And they were like, "Hey, we're doing like a medieval fantasy series based on that. Like we're gonna do a medieval fantasy thing with this same formula of an exercise app." So, and they were like, "You only get to audition for one character." I go through the first round of auditions. I don't get anyone. I'm like, "Well, whatever." It was like a fantasy audio drama. Who cares? Uh, because you have to have that attitude as an actor, or you'll go insane. You strike out way more than you actually get a job. The second round comes around, and I'm looking at the characters, and you notice things like middle-aged man who's like part werewolf, and we specifically want a Canadian, and I'm like, that's oddly specific, but I don't think in my head I'm like, it's probably fine. And then I see like I think it's like the head of the town guard is what Cyclops is listed as. And I audition just sort of with the thought in mind that it's just this head of the town guard because I'm like, I'm used to the idea of playing really like big, regal characters that are like very, noble, things like that. People who talk with a lot of authority and confidence and articulation. Um, so I do that and I get a call back. I do that and they're like, can we film talking to you about the project? And I'm like, that's weird, but sure. And then they're like, this is not a fantasy series. You were not cast as this character. This is a Marvel thing, and you are Cyclops. And I was like, I was like, that's my favorite X-Man. It's unironically my favorite X-Man. So I was just like, oh, that's so sick. It was incredible. It was a magical moment. And we got to record sort of over a Zoom-like thing remotely, but it was all the cast together, or as many people as we could grab. I got to bounce off of all the other actors, did it scene by scene. It was really neat hearing everyone play off of each other. It was very cool. It was super cool. And Ella, the director, was very, very nice.
And are there any other X-Men or Marvel heroes you would like to voice in the future?
I can't do the accent at all, so I'd probably need to study it. Gambit would be cool. Colossus would be really neat. Trying to think, is there anyone else that I'm like super into? I think that'd pretty much be it. Like those are the ones I really liked as a kid. Oh, Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's one. I studied German in college, so that would be very fun.
Yeah, at least you get to use that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Does your mindset at all change when you're voicing a legacy character like Cyclops or Hal Jordan?
Um, I mean, I'll say that by and large, especially for characters like those, so many actors have played them that I'm not like super stressed out about voice matching anyone in particular. So I just play them the way that they need to be played. I'll say that like there are characters that I will not name that I voice matched for because the actor was sick that week at Crunchyroll, and I mean that happens sometimes. Some actors and that I just think I probably shouldn't. But if you go through some shows, you might find my voice as characters that I am not officially cast for like an episode or two. So when it's those cases, I do try to be very focused on how do I think that actor would portray that scene. This character sounds like this, and I'm trying to like twist my voice a specific way. So that changes things. But if I'm not doing a hard vocal match, then I try not to think too hard about it.
Okay. And that's a fun fact. I'm not sure you're aware of this, but after voicing Cyclops, I officially put you in a very exclusive club of actors with the likes of JYP and now Cassandra Lee Morris and Marvel Rivals that have voiced both the character Hirawatha as well as a Marvel hero.
That's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like chronicled a list of all of them, and you were like the fourth out of like nine currently. And to jump back quickly back to Hirawatha real quick, just for shits and giggles, are you at all gotten the chance to hang out or friends with any other wielders of One for All at all?
Yeah, I mean, Devon, the sixth wielder, his actor and I pal around a lot. We got to announce at the same time, and we've hung out. I was at his wedding.
Hey,
That was a lot of fun. And then we've done a couple cons together, and then he's a like full basically full health bar comboed me to death in Dragon Ball Fighters. So yeah, I hang out with him. I haven't gotten a chance to really meet any of the other ones in any kind of way, but I love hanging out with Devon.
nice. And to shift over to Gundam real quick, would Gwell be the darkest emotional headspace you had to get into for a character, or would it be someone else?
The darkest emotional character. That's tough. Goel goes through a lot. Um, I've done things like Quantum Suicide, which was a visual novel on Steam where like I have to give a long monologue about like my best friend dying, being killed in this like Danganronpa style murder game right in front of me. I've in terms of just being in darkness, August Flynn is a serial killer I play in a game called Crimson Spires, where I have to give these sort of long monologues on my rationale for why I kill people. There's a part of that game that I will whatever. There's a part of that game where what is it? I think something happens like I rip out the heart of a vampire and I eat part of it and it turns me into a demon and I give a monologue on the nature of humanity. And like it's I've done that kind of thing. So like in terms of darkness, like Guel was very emotional. Guel was very, very dark and emotional, and I loved him for that. And I loved playing Guel. It's a hard maybe on if that's the darkest or most emotional thing I've ever done. The kidnapping portion of Witch from Mercury, where he's on Earth, that was tough. That was a tough place to be emotionally, but I mean, you kind of have to be ready to get there as an actor, and I've done similar things. The coach thing that I told you about, where he's like dying, that was also really emotional. You kind of have to be able to get there, even for something like Sicko Shock. Uh, there's this phone call where my character is like calling his ex-wife, and he's like begging her to convince him not to pursue this case because he thinks he's gonna die. So like it's that I've had to do a lot of this kind of thing. I'm very used to a place of darkness, which it's almost comfortable for me, I guess, because as an actor you really feel, I think, when a character goes through something really primal, really affecting, that's really going to be like this experience is going to change who I am as a person, and I don't know what I'm gonna look like after. And I feel like that's that's always a incredible place to be whenever you're really feeling that as an actor in the booth. And I'm sure from my brief experience on stage and then from what I've heard on film, it's the same thing. But yeah, being in those experiences always super rewarding.
And do you remember what your overall mindset was, or something the director said while you were recording the scene where Gwell kills his dad?
Just spoiling it, huh? Yeah. Uh, so I was like, I was sort of Witch for Mercury was a specific case. So normally, for anime, for simuldubbing, which is how we do it now, where we record like a week or two out from the release. Um, uh, Normally you sometimes even it gets released on the same day. For something like Metallic Rouge, which is a show I did this winter into spring. That show I couldn't go look up what was going to happen next because the episode wasn't out. So I never had any idea like what my guy Grathon was going to do. So I just had to be like, all right, I'm going in cold every time. I'm going in cold. I have no idea what's going to happen. For something like Witch from Mercury, though, we waited like a season to dub it for whatever reason, and I came into the first session like, all right, on the long road to kill my dad. So that was sort of where I was at because I already knew where it was headed. So I was like, all right, let's go into this moment. And I mean, not to get overly personal, I have a difficult relationship with my now deceased father. He was not a great guy. The scenes of physical abuse in Witch Mercury, I was like, yep, I get that. Uh, so I kind of went into it with this sort of like um it is extremely difficult, and I think Guel comes out a specific way about it, but it is always extremely difficult having a parent that wasn't great to you die. Um, Especially if it's like if they were just unambiguously bad, like if it was just nothing but like treated like I don't know Harry Potter's like aunt and uncle from Harry Potter. Uh, like if it was just that, you'd be like, well, whatever. He was always a jerk. I never liked him. Yeah, he can rot. But in the case of like Guel's dad, like you see these flashbacks of like his dad when he was a kid, and you don't really get a lot on like what his mom's situation was. I think Lauda might be his half brother, so that has a whole thing going on. You never really learn about the mom dimension there of what's going on with that relationship, and if that did something to his father. Um, and I think because of that, it's so hard, especially in a case where you accidentally kill your dad. That's even worse. That's like all the sort of internalizing that you could do about trying to get over it. And like God, the last words being that he's like, "I'm glad you're safe." You're like, oh, that's so painful. It's awful because it's like you can't. A big thing that comes up in the second half of G Witch is that Guel kind of refuses to really acknowledge that his dad was not a great person. Which I mean, how could he? He killed him by accident. But I think that knowing that that was going to be there, I was like, I sort of had to brace myself. I did it through like a lot of the director and I would make jokes and like we'd mess around. Me and Jason Lord, who directed the show, was very accommodating. He was great to work with. But it's a rough moment, man. Like it is a tough one.
And we're down to the final two questions. First off, is what do you want your legacy to be as a voice actor?
Legacy. Well, I legacy. I think it's a tough question.
Yeah.
I think everything that we do uh in life really is like transient. Um I think what is it? I think Patton Oswalt had a conversation with a guy um about this on the topic of fame, where he was like, look, everyone back in like the early 1900s would say Henry Fonda was said to be like the face of the 20th century. And now you have to be a very serious film buff to remember who like Henry Fonda was. Or God, I can't even remember. To see, the problem is I can't even tell you if that's the right actor. But the point is that you know, when looking back at like I don't know Shakespeare's works, you don't the actors are listed down, but you have to be a very specific type of person to really remember the performers' names. We might see something different in like 100 200 years, but I'm thinking legacy like really long term. uh we might see something like that, something a little different because we have recorded footage of these performances, but to some degree, even when anime gets a little old, you'll see a bunch of people be like, I mean, I don't care, it's old. Like the new thing is what matters. So inevitably with the march of time, if this continues, if we as a culture sort of continue to do this thing where like only the new thing kind of matters, the old stuff, unless it's like one of the verified classics, uh, gets everything else gets looked over. I mean, over time, actors will fall off of people's radars. The new big things will eclipse the old big things, and I think that like I'm not really all of this to say I'm not that stressed about sort of my legacy as a voice actor. I'd like to, ideally, I'd like to think like the people that do see my performances like them. I've gotten some very kind messages from people where I think I a couple characters I played have like they say like this character helped me through a tough time, or like this performance was really moving and I really resonated with it. And ultimately, like in the moment, that's sort of what matters most to me. And like I think as long as I'm sort of entertaining the audience right now, I'm not super stressed on what the future will be. I'd like to think as a person that like I leave behind at least a record of trying to be a good and decent person. You see way too many voice actors in the news having done like atrocities. Uh, and yeah, I just hope to be a good person and make people smile and happy and feel good in the present. That's basically what it comes down to.
And the final question is there anything you would like to say to the Hero Walk community since Hero Walk is a big part of my channel?
Sure, absolutely. I here. I can say I can speak to this. I know this we're in a tough time and everybody is, I'm sure, fighting about the ending of the show and fighting about
Yes,
the
I've
ending.
seen the tweets all over the place.
Uh, but I want to tell being extremely welcoming. I've only received kind comments from My Hero Academia fans, and I feel like a big theme in My Hero Academia is that the present is imperfect. We are living in the accumulated problems of the past, and I feel like regardless of how you feel about this piece of media, which is very important to me and which I love, just go into the future and always remember Plus Ultra as a philosophy of just keep pushing forward and go beyond your own expectations of yourself and try to be kind and empathetic as much as possible to people that are different from you. That's the message I give. That's the best I can do.
All right. Well, thanks. I'm glad we got to do this. And this is something, one last thing I want to say is this is something I hope to do if I continue on doing these interviews and interview more of the cast of Hirawaka, is thanking them for their content. Because this series means the world to me as someone that grew up as a massive like Marvel fan. I literally have like a shrine to the Raimi full time if you can see it. Like
Nice. Very
all the TV,
nice.
yeah. Like those TV cards I've had since I was a kid, the Blu-ray and the VHS copy actually comes. And that's the cool thing about this one. Hold on.
Yeah, sure.
I got this at like a yard sale when I saw it, I had to get it. It's got a Blockbuster sticker on it.
Ah, nice. That's so sweet. That's so retro
Yeah,
now.
so yeah, this show means the world to me. I was instantly connected to it. Izuku means Izuku. I instantly related to him because I grew up as a massive Spider-Man fanboy back in the day as a kid, man. So yeah, just
Oh, yeah,
thank
man.
you for all you've done for the series, man. Hopefully, we get to hear you in the next movie.
Of course, man. I appreciate it, and I'm grateful that you had me on. I'm a small part in this big, giant thing that inspired me and helped me move forward as a voice actor. So I'm grateful, man. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks. Have a good rest of your day then.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.